Chapter 11. The Varsity pairs, What's a Hokum Karem? A Genius and Insane Both. K1 and Slade. Hayes in the Barn. Quitting. Hate. Thursday afternoon on that first week of school, Coach stood before us with the list of varsity runners for our first meet written out on a sheet of paper in his hand. We sat anxiously in the U of wooden benches, down in the locker room, waiting to hear who Coach thought his 10 best athletes were. Fifth team, he said in his high nasally voice, is going to be Bowden and Yost, a couple of seniors that really went out and pounded the pavement this summer. I wasn't surprised by this. I'd have had them at 9 and 10 on the team myself. You're in the honors, boys, concluded Coach. Bowden put his hand out to the senior next to him, the hard-working, greasy-faced, and frustrated kid named Chad Yost, who had aggressively voiced the opinion that Squid deserved no mercy due to his being a sophomore on Hounds and Hares Day just 4 days previous. Yost grimly and quietly gave Bowden 5. "Bowden," Coach squawked, "you're leading off." He nodded at Bowden and got the thumbs up back. "Yost, that means you're going to bring it home. Think you can handle being anchor?" Yost nodded solemnly. "You ain't going to be a pussy when it hurts, are you?" Yost shook his head back and forth vigorously, almost maniacally, I thought. Yost was quickly becoming the senior I was second most worried about on the team. "Fourth team," Coach went on, "is going to be Chambers and Kleinhelter." Chambers and Kleinhelter were two sophomores. They were hawks, a couple of pretty solid runners. Chambers was a tall, athletic-looking guy, over 6 feet tall, who seemed only to be held back by his large and heavy feet. And Kleinhelter looked to be 100% a runner. He had broad shoulders for his size, was skinny, and weighed in at about 115 pounds. His only issue was that he lacked the muscle even to carry his small frame over an entire effort. He regularly faded at the end of tough workouts. They had both fluttered around the 17-and-a-half-minute mark as bluebirds, and had put in some good miles over the summer. I was certain of their place on the varsity in the years to come. "Chambers first, then Kleiny," said Coach. "You guys ought to press for a scoring time. Kleiny, don't go out like an idiot and fuck up your last mile split. Say something." Kleinhelter nodded. "Chambers," Coach poked his chin out at Chambers, "be sure you tell him right again before the race, so's he don't forget." Chambers nodded. "Third team," Coach went on, "Kitty Cat and Victor." Kitty Cat was Todd Mancato's nickname. Kitty Cat was silent and showed little emotion. He was moody like a feline. A talented runner, he would go on to run on a scholarship in college. However, at this time, back when he was still just a sophomore, he hadn't yet discovered his ability. Victor Jones, Kitty Cat's partner, was Slade's toady. He, like Slade, looked to be a runner during practices and meets, and a small-town punk the rest of his waking life. He wore a Levi's blue jean vest with a bunch of sewn-on patches over a small plain white t-shirt nearly every day. His hair was kinky and orange, his skin almost a weird bluish white, as if he couldn't stand the sun. About a foot shorter than Slade, he was a near-perfect sidekick. He was the only runner I've ever known who smoked more than the occasional cigarette. The ashtray of his .82 Cutlass overflowed with butts. Victor cursed quietly when he heard he was paired with Kitty Cat. He glanced at Slade. The two of them, it was obvious, had hoped to run together. "You guys are set to count," said Coach, oblivious of Victor's disapproval of his partner. "Victor," he said, his eyes locking on the little hooligans, "that means no drinking Friday night, and no messing around with your slutty little girlfriend either. You know how I feel about sex and athletic performance. Don't go wasting it." Victor snorted in response. I couldn't decide whether the snort meant it was silly for Coach to think he'd drink booze the night before a race, or if he thought it was silly for Coach to ask him to abstain from drinking booze on a Friday night, Saturday race or not. Or perhaps he thought it was funny that Coach called his girlfriend slutty. Whichever was the case, Victor snorted. "And remember, boys, it's not the places that matter, it's the time that counts. This is the only event this year places don't matter and time does." The Hokum Karem was originated at Wabash College, a small all-men's liberal arts school in Crawfordsville, Indiana. by the late J. Owen Huntsman, the head cross-country coach at the University of Chicago at the time. It was designed as an early season training event. In a Hokum Karem, 5 teams of 2 runners each run alternating miles for a total of 6 miles. Each runner runs a total of 3 miles, tagging after each 1-mile leg. Think of it as an intense repeat workout. You run your 3 1-mile repeats as hard as you can and get a 4.5 minute, if your partner is awesome, to a 6.5 minute, if your partner sucks, rest between miles. A pair running under 30 minutes is averaging under 5 minutes for each of their 6 miles, which is really good. The overall winning team is the team with the lowest overall time, with 3 pairs out of 5 counting. To win a high-quality Hokum Karem, a team almost always has to run sub-90 minutes overall. What I, along with everyone else sitting around the blackboard, was wondering was who the number 1 team would be. The second team, which he announced next, made sense. "The freshman duet of K2 and Keen," said Coach with a smile on his face, "will be our second team. Keen, your anchor. K2, you just do it like you did during Angel Devil. Get Keen up there where he feels like he's in the race." And then a strange tension filled the locker room. Even the mouth breathers, the handful of guys who never seemed to know what was going on, realized something was amiss. Of potential candidates for the honor of being named onto the first team, only Slade seemed to be left. But he had to have a partner. There was Johnny Feeney with his big, goofy black glasses and stumpy, hairy legs, who always took off like a bat out of hell on easy runs. But Coach was crazy, not stupid. He knew Feeney wasn't really that good, that he just loved to win workouts on easy days like a moron. Surely it wasn't him. There was Tim Trong, a glass eater of a senior, a first-generation Vietnamese American with an accent so profound I understood him about half the time, but whom Coach seemed to love due to his kamikaze attitude and his show-no-pain demeanor. But he had a mile PR of somewhere around 5:15, way too slow to be paired with on the number 1 team with Slade. Nobody else even seemed close. As the guys glanced around, trying to figure out who the other guy on the first team was, I started to panic. There was only one guy in my mind who made any sense at all. Then I noticed Yost glancing at me, a nasty look on his greasy, pimply face. It seemed he had the same thought at the same time that I did. Was Coach a mad genius or just mad? I can't settle on one or the other. I'm beginning to believe maybe I don't have to. Without having done anything to earn my position on the number 1 team and a pairing with our senior team captain, I was to be Slade's partner. "Kendall 1 and Slade are the first team," Coach said. "K1 will lead it off and Slade will bring it home." He closed the notebook he'd been reading from as if that settled that and asked cheerily, "Any questions?" There were none. I think everyone was too shocked at my being on the first team after my week of dragging ass with Squid to speak. Looking around the room for some support, I found nothing but shocked faces and a few ugly stink eyes aimed right at me, the worst from Slade himself. "Okay," Coach said. "Easy run today, boys. The hay, as the people of this backward hayseed state like to say in reference to their farming heritage, is in the barn." As we quietly went up the steps out into the afternoon sun for our easy run, I hated Coach. Hate's a strong word, but I was at the point of hate. As the guys talked quietly about Coach's decisions, I heard my name whispered a few times. I didn't want to hear what they were saying. On the run, I considered my options. I doubted if the football coach would still have me. Also, after using my running shoes for a couple of weeks, I knew Dad wouldn't let me quit. He'd made an investment, and I'd made a promise without saying a word when I begged for and he bought those expensive Tigers for me. And I knew it was probably about something deeper than the shoes anyway, that there was something I was going to have to face head on. I had tried to avoid confrontation with Slade by faking hurt and by joining Squid at the end of the pack. I had dismissed the possibility that I'd be on the varsity, probably until Slade graduated. I'd come to terms with that and was content to toil away on the JV team with the other admirable slobs and Squid, of course. However, Coach had shanghaied all my plans. He'd put me in a bad place I hadn't even considered on those sleepless nights when I thought too much about everything. For that, I give him everlasting credit.